we would like to invite our guest of honor, the Honourable Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud, to take this evening forward in conversation with Dr. Kashyap Patel. This is indeed a rare privilege to have him with us, as well as four well-renowned oncologists from the US on one platform. Let me introduce Justice, though he absolutely needs no introduction. I'd love to introduce our guest of honor for the evening, Honorable Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud.
Hi, Rael.
At the Supreme Court, he has delivered judgments on Indian and comparative constitutional law, human rights law, gender justice, public interest litigation, commercial and criminal law. He has been an eminent speaker at conferences organized by bodies of the United Nations, International Labour Organization, and the UN Environmental Programme, the World Bank, and Asian Development Bank. Welcome, 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 Justice Chandrachud. Lovely to have you with us. We also have, thank you. We also have, of course, our Dr. Kashyap Patel, who is a renowned oncologist in the US who works with terminally ill cancer patients. He is a quadruple board certified cancer specialist who has been working with patients for over 20 years. He is licensed to practice medicine in India, England, and the United States, and is certified to practice oncology in 6 different American states, and is known internationally for his work in this field. He has authored several articles on death and dying in national journals and magazines. He is the immediate past president of the South Carolina Oncology Society. Without further ado, may I turn this over to Justice Chandrachud and Dr. Kashyap Patel.
Good evening, Rael. Thank you very much. Good evening, Dr. Patel. I really love reading this book. It's a brilliant exposition, and heartiest congratulations on such an amazing book. Let me begin our conversation by saying that, we're all used to having doctors quoted and cited in, say, the New England Journal of Medicine. But this is something which is happening, I think, in the world of medicine. Whether it was Siddharth Mukherjee's The Emperor of Maladies, or Dr. Atul Gawande's On Being Mortal, Paul Kalanidhi's When Breath Becomes Air, or my own favorite, which is Dr. Henry Marsh, the neurosurgeon who has spoken of his own confessions as a surgeon. My question to you really is this. As a doctor, when you make this migration from, say, the ICU, or a surgeon makes that migration from the operating theater into the creative world of literature, it's a change of space. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Patel, what does this really entail when a person like you, an eminent doctor like you, is making this migration from of course, doing your work as a doctor and then going into this creative pursuit of sharing your knowledge with the world at large?
Well, first of all, Justice, Honorable Justice, I really want to thank you for being here. I'm quite familiar with your father's work. I was actually growing up in India in early 70s and 80s, and Justice Y.B. Chandrachud was a household name. So I really feel utmost sense of honor and kind of pride to have you speak with me. So the way I look at physician's role does not end at just prescribing medicine. We traditionally take the approach where we kind of almost taken the reductionist approach of seeing human being not as a human being, but someone with a piece of abnormal meat in their body. And what I learned during my journey through 3 continents was what was lagging behind was ability of seeing that person as a whole. So from the microcosm of treating one person, when I saw my own struggle, my own difficulty of sharing bad news, my own struggle with helping my patients to die peacefully, I felt that maybe I could create a journey through the medium of sharing what I've done and help people really understand what is life and death is all about. And in that space, what I kind of started was compiling the stories, compiling the diaries of my experience with my patients. And coming back, when you mentioned the Paul Kalani's, about his life, and at the same time, someone who read this book told me that they felt it was the hybrid between Paul Kalani's book and Tuesdays with Maury. You took one story and combined that into several stories, eventually more into learning experience. So my primary desire of writing this book was to share with the people that there's a way to live life to the fullest. There's a way to accept death not as a kind of curse, but as a full blessing, and we can have a celebration and graceful departure from this world where the loved ones can have a peaceful memories, the person who's going away has a peaceful memories. And imagine, we do all these baby shower parties before baby is born. We don't know where the person is coming from before they're born, but we do nothing to say goodbye to them. We even shy away from talking about it. So I feel that we as a society has to rise above our idea of winning over cancer and taking cancer as an enemy, accepting it, embracing it, and living life to the fullest.
Dr. Kashyap, you have on the one hand technology and knowledge, and on the other hand you have notions about the quality of life. Now, technology and knowledge is constantly involved in this effort to prolong human life. As Yuval Noah Harari says in one of his recent books. So is this a sort of conflict between the desire of science and knowledge to prolong human life, and then on the other hand, you have quality of life concerns? So my question to you really is this: is quality of life something that you look at standing away from technology and knowledge as a doctor? Or is it something which you sort of grow within your knowledge and technology? Or is it something away from technology and knowledge? Is it something away from it?
I think you put a very important point here, Justice, that when we take the compartmentalized, fragmented, reductionist approach, that technology goes away from quality of life. The way I practice, the way a lot of my colleagues in our team, Community Oncology Alliance practices, we want to combine the technology and the quality of life together, and they're really inclusive. We want to employ every possible avenue to have a meaningful extension of life. But going back to Bhagavad Gita's second chapter, Jata Sahi Dhruvam Mrityu Dhruvam Janma Mritasya Cha, that is certain for anybody who's born in any form, and birth is certain for somebody who's died. So I see death as some sort of transition point between my manifest existence and unmanifest existence. And I studied a lot of faith, and in the book I've emphasized multiple faiths perception. In one form or the other, there is some sort of optimism when we leave this body. So I've tried to create amalgamation of the quality of life, the technology of life, the quantity of life, and how we can make it meaningful so that we do not have any regrets left behind.
Very significant book which has really changed my life in so many which ways is Professor Randy Pausch's book called The Last Lecture. And he was a professor at Carnegie Mellon. And there's a sentence in that book which, in fact, I quoted in my judgment on euthanasia, because we legalized passive euthanasia, the Supreme Court 2 years back. Incidentally, today is the second anniversary of the judgment of the Supreme Court, which legalized, relations between two consenting adults of the same gender. And I believe the British High Commission is using the day to fly the rainbow flag across all locations of the British Council in India today, this whole week, in fact. But, talking about Professor Randy Pausch, he said, you cannot change the hand that you are dealt with, but you can certainly change the way you play the hand. And I wanted to ask you, from your experiences with your patients, many of which are in this beautiful book, have you learned something about how your patients play their hand, as opposed to the hand which they are dealt with, which is destiny perhaps? It's an odd combination of cells. How do they play the hand, and what's really the inspiring story?
I would tell you, Justice, in my experience of kind of working with patients who are facing death as kind of as a real finitude, patients are willing to hear about it. They are not averse to have that conversation. Sometimes I think we are failing as a physician because when we talk about technology, when we talk about science, we raise that expectation level that I'm going to cure the cancer. And I want to bring President Nixon in the equation here because when he said that I declare the war on cancer today, I felt that we started seeing cancer as an enemy. And where did cancer come from? Nobody planted from Mars. It's part of my body. It started my own body tissue. So how can I fight against my own body? I have to learn how to create that peaceful cohabitation. So coming back to your point about I cannot change the hand, I tell my patients that we don't have an option of what you have today. What we have is an option how we work with it, how we use maximum efficacious treatment, keeping a center on the quality of life that you have, and then make most meaningful days. I want to incite one example. I had a patient who had failed 3 lines of treatment with ovarian cancer. And I felt that taking treatment further was going to hurt us. So I really asked her to kind of bring her family for a conversation, and they all came. And I started talking to her, treatment is failing. Let's see if we want to do something different. And she said, hallelujah, doctor, I did not want to fail you. She told me that she knew she was ready to die, but she said, asking you to change my treatment to hospice care means I'm failing my coach, and you're my coach. I said, no, I'm glad you bring it up. So we have a routine of setting expectation that whenever I have a stage 4 cancer patient, I insert one sentence saying that doing nothing may become an option going down the road, and we may have to talk about it. So they know the temperament of conversation is extending life with full palliation, but a stage will come when we'll have to stop the treatment.
One final question, which is, I think, your book, though it is based on your experiences on cancer care, and therefore it's between life and death, from despair to hope. I believe your book has a wider message for society today, which is our ability to lead life to the fullest. And I think every moment of our lives, we are constantly challenged by events, by circumstances, by social conditioning, which prevents us from leading life to its fullest, because we are constantly overwhelmed by either the social media or your next target, the next thing that you want to do in life. And we really give up the importance of living in the present, of being with ourselves, of realizing the value of being. Perhaps what has really happened is that your experience as a doctor has allowed you to make your patients realize the importance of living life in the present, because you don't know what the future holds. But that's true for each one of us. It's just true for every one of us, irrespective of what malady one has or one doesn't have. So I believe, and this is really a response, and I hope you'd respond to this as well, that would this book in that sense be a watershed for a movement where we enable humanity to understand the importance of life as it stands, with all its failings, with all its imperfections, and acceptance of our condition without being unduly fatalistic, and therefore really spearhead a new movement towards change and towards the way we lead our lives as human beings.
Well, that segues into my kind of next step is having seen the success and receipt of the book from multiple people who've praised it. I do plan to start a movement, and I see Ted Oken is kind of watching this, and we really want to create, during my 2 years as a president for the Community Oncology Alliance next year onwards, I want to make this as a theme that live life to the fullest, but accept death gracefully. So that we do not deny the people to right to the live to the fullest, at the same time set the expectation. I want to bring one more personal kind of episode here. I've always believed that when I speak with the language of the soul, heart, mind, tongue, and action in one axis, there's never been a difficult conversation for me. It's because my soul's language is not dictated to my selfish conditioned brain. My conditioned brain will twist the words, but my soul never lets me twist the words. So that allows me to accept what has come to my way and how do I respond to that.